Okay, I just wanted to get this video out. I wanted to explain overframing and lacing. So these are the new trusses that are tying into the existing house, making it quite an amazing home when it's all done. So the first thing of note is sometimes these are 4x8 sheets of subfloor, correction, roof plywood. I'm sorry, it's a little late. It just became 2 a.m. Um, I don't know, I'm a freak. Anyways, sometimes when you're doing these sheets, you end up with almost nothing at the end. And so some people, if you're going to have like 10 or 15 or whatever inches, you'll be running, if you have exposed tails, you'll be moving all this uphill so that you'll have a row of nice, pretty plywood that's not OSB, so that when it gets painted, it looks good. And so then you won't have this problem up here. But let's say it worked out where you ended up with a little rip and you can't help it. You need to block underneath there, because as you're walking up there, if you're anything over 240 pounds, as you walk to step over the roof, it will feel super spongy right here. And you run the chance on a thin rip like that you'll break it. But what you're going to do for reals, let's just do this. You're going to want to have your plywood start. See if I can grab all this. I'm just holding down shift. I don't even know if I have this tagged or labeled, layered, whatever terms. I guess I grabbed a truss. Don't want that. Okay. Let's move this. Whatever didn't move, I'll get it later. Let's go move. We'll left click there and just start moving it. When you're sliding things up an angle, it's kind of weird. But yep, look, that worked. So what will happen is all I did there was I came up straight up off the wall, and that's where I would pop a line all the way across. And then I know that I'm going to have either 1/2 inch or 5/8 standard roof plywood here. And then here would be that AC or AB actual CDX looking plywood that's been machine sanded so that it takes paint really well. And then what we can do, we'll use Medique trim. Yeah, watch this. This will go kind of quick. So I got the first one. If you're going to do convection venting, which most people do. I wonder why. Oh, you know what? That's why it did that. It's on an angle, so it won't push-pull into itself. I got it. Oh, hey, I can fix that. Watch this. Medique trim, boom, here. No. Medique trim, boom, there. Medique trim. I want to catch that block. Why is it not catching that block? That is so weird. Is this block... Oh, okay. So you have to back out of whatever you're in. I had already been in the plywood. So there you go. Watch this. We're going to trim this off farther, but it's going to be square now and not on the middle block. And then I'm going to go like this and go P. I'm going to drag it to the block, push, pull. Now I'm going to let go, and then I'm going to re-push, pull, and push it back 1.5 inches, let's say. So this is where we're going to stop the plywood at the top. And that would leave an 1.5 inch gap for your continuous ridge vent. But we can actually figure out from the top of the truss, wow, these dimensions are pretty big. 2 5/16. So you could just come down 2 inches. And from the very top peak. In fact, if you really want to be nuts, while this is stacked on the ground, you can lay things out on your trusses before you even bust the bands and get them up there. Might as well do it when you're standing on the ground, because then it's a lot faster and it's mucho safer. Medique trim. When I say Medique trim, let's just here. Extension, Medique project, Medique tools, trim. And when I say that, I have a shortcut for that. And then I have it loaded in a Stream Deck. And you don't have to buy one of those $200 or $300 Stream Decks. All you got to do is have a phone you're not using, or a pad, like a tablet. And so if you're Apple, you have an iPad or something. And you can get the lifetime mobile license for Stream Deck for $50. So that's pretty cool. This doesn't really matter, because once you're in the house, let me go ahead and move these just to make it visually correct. I do not function well when I get tired. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't understand. No, you know what? I've always loved framing, and it's a young man's game. So now I do much less framing, and if I can help people with design, that is almost as rewarding if I give somebody a good design. Oh, come on. You're not going to let me? Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. So now we're going to do Medique Extend. That's going to be, well, okay. Here's the honest truth. You do not need to cut that little itty bitty weird difference. You just run these all the way down under here. You're just going to pop a line. In fact, if you come straight up the wall, then yeah, full sheets. You'll start a whole row, and then you'll be good to go. This needs to be looked at right here. I don't know if I would cut the truss off just yet. I did, because when I looked at it this way, this would stick down. But anyways, let's discuss this, because this is really why we're here. This is called over-framing. There's a couple ways to do this. You know what I want to do? Here's the tags. I'm starting to use these folders. I saw Artisan Tony had folders. So that's what I wanted. 3850. And then I number these things. And it's never the same number on every model. It's always something different. But at least now this is in the template. So I've got folders. And with framing, I'm going to go studs, truss, new truss, 3810. So let's do like 3815. And we'll do new roof sheathing. And then I just turn the eyeball off, click the little tag, price tag thing, and I just go through and click them one time, and then they're out of my way, so then I can. And another thing you can do is if you need to see through it, if you look at the overframing that I built, I used green. We can get this out of here now. I used green and I turned it like 70% transparent or whatever, so that actually it's like 30% transparent, but the slider says 70. Just so you can see through it. Because if I just leave this all white, sometimes it's hard to view. So what I'm showing you now is when we would stick frame, we like to make framing to framing contact. So we would actually create these lay-on valleys, and then you would walk down here and you'd stick your head in between the rafters and you'd eye down this area and see if it planed. And usually you would cut a really steep angle on the bottom, and you would plane it manually right there and tack a nail in it just to kind of hold it in place. And none of this other stuff is here. And this 1 2x12 is just laying on the roof, and it might be like up here somewhere. And as you're planing, you'd see it stick up, and then you would just have them lower the top, lower the top, lower the top, until right when you're right there, it just barely disappears. And then when you stand up, you say, all right, nail it. And now you know how to plane this so that this edge is a valley between this roof and this roof. And that's how we used to do it. But in truss world, a lot of guys here, well, everybody's going to have their opinion, but a lot of people, it just kills me, but a lot of people are like, well, it's good enough. Maybe. But how about do it to the best that you can? Let's do that. Do it like the story I heard where you're building it for yourself. Okay? The story was some builder wanted his son to learn how to built this house, built it all crappy because, he was cutting every kind of corner to make as much as he could. And then the owner, the dad, gave the house to the son. Like, here you go. You just built this pile of crap and it's yours. So don't do that. You only live once that we know of. So be the very best you can be. Think about the people you're doing things for. This might be their dream. So help them. Make their dream awesome. So up here in the truss world, what they like to do, what I've seen, is sheet the trusses. And then sometimes, this is the part that blows me away. I'm going to show you. See if that's part of it. Yeah. Oh, well, hold on. Okay, that's just a big blue box because it's just a big blue box. Here. So in some instances, they'll go ahead and sheet everything, and then they'll plane across and they will pop a chalk line all the way down, and then they'll cut these jacks. And what this jack is the plumb cut of this roof. This roof happens to be a 4 and 12. So you're cutting a plumb cut here, 4 and 12. And then when you measure down, this is the seat cut, and the bevel is whatever this roof pitch is. And this happens to be a 4 and 12. So you're cutting this at 18.43 degrees bevel on your saw, and it's a seat cut of a 4 and 12 along here on the angle. So this would be a compound cut. And what's nice is when you cut these, when you stack them together, the two long points, everything will be top facing, and when you lay them on top of each other, the bottoms will be opposite. They will be long point along the top, but the bevel will be the opposite on the other board. And so you can just tell when you're doing it, you didn't like cut two of them from the same side of the sawhorse kind of thing. Now I've been told that when you add certain things to a truss, that if it's not engineered for that, then you're in violation. Okay, sure. These are existing trusses. This is how I would do it. If I could get a hanger that would work and not tear anything up, I would put a hanger on there, but I'm sure there's a metal plate. If out of these trusses were built in the 50s, they could have plywood here. I don't know. But then that's just to hold the ridge there, and you're going to shoot through the back here anyways. And, but then put a block. And this is all up in the attic. So your block, theoretic, well, here, let's just take it down to here then. Medique extend. See, this is a pretty cool little extension. So before I go any farther, SketchUp takes a long time, even if you're using extensions. Like Medique's is pretty awesome. Nathaniel has his extensions that make designing a house pretty quick. But the problem I have is a lot of guys will design a house and it's just walls. I wonder what's going on here. It's just rectangle fills, you know. And I would rather see the studs. I'd rather see the framing, because then I can make sure that it's going to work. And here's the last thing. We were talking about lacing. Don't trust me. I have not seen the TRUSS software or the packet, but they're going to send out a TRUSS packet that's going to have a booklet for every single truss that's here. Plus, they'll probably have each page for each truss stapled up here near the top of the truss, and it'll just live in the attic forever. Each truss will have its own engineered 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And they'll show you where they want you to run 2x4s. And all these are doing is just stiffening up the roof. And so when you're going to go do this, whatever the truss plan says for layouts, and almost 100% of the time, it's always hook over the outside of the wall, go 24 inches to the next layout, and then 2 feet on center from there, which is different than like stick framing. You're going to go 16-inch or 24-inch to the center, which is like 15 1/4 or 23 1/4. And the only reason for that is that's actually breaking on centers, whereas trusses, they just come in 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet, whatever. Both have their pluses and minuses, but as far as lacing goes, whatever that layout is that you get from your paperwork, go ahead and lay these 2x4s out the same exact way. Assume that the ends are going to be flush with the outside. And then if they go 24 inches to the layout and over, or however, whatever terminology you want to use, hook it to it or over to it, 24, and then lay these out so that when you shove them up there, you're not fiddle farting around. You start with this one, flush it, shoot it down into this truss. And if you're doing it from down below, put your layouts facing down, and you can run on a little scaffold or a ladder. Ladder work sucks. So, try to be efficient. But yeah, you'll see your layouts. You'll be able to slide this truss. These things are going to be so easy to move back and forth. You do the middle one, and they're just loose, And so right here, you would have a layout, line it up, boom, boom, line it up, boom, 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 boom. And all that does is just make it a system, a really stiff system. But what I'm going to do is, as I do projects, I'm also a big, huge proponent of stick framing. I love to see a stick frame roof. Did I? Oh, I need to paste that back and hold. There we go. Yeah, I want those on there. So this is the way I would do it. I wouldn't just pop a line and put the jacks down to the popped line because I think that's lame. I like this way better because it's way more contact with these pieces, these little triangle pieces. And you're going to extend this plywood down to where it lands on this other plywood. So once you build this thing, take a block, a speed square, whatever, and just carry this top angle down till it touches, make a mark, make another mark. Now you can pop that line. It'll be, 1.5 inches or so away from the board. And that's what you measure when you're calling out measurements. You measure down to that pop line, come over 4 feet, measure down that pop line. You know that the top is square. If your existing house has ridge vents, or if you're going to be putting in continuous ridge venting, like let's say with a building like this, you're probably going to want to put on all new roofing, like shingles or whatever you do, because this will all be new and you want to make this all look the same. Then you would measure down, whatever it is, a couple inches from the peak. I'm sure the existing has blocking in there. That's one of those things I was telling you is on this, excuse me, if your lumber is down here, then you're going to be bringing these trusses and you're going to set them from the back to the front because you don't want to have to pack them around the house and do it in the wrong order. So this very first truss, chances are it won't be a web. It'll be... I wonder how hard that would be to do really quick. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Let's see what happens. Okay, good. I was concerned that it was a component, and that would be bad. So your gable truss will probably look like this. And this actually is going pretty good. So some of them are on 24-inch centers, but I'm just going to make this 16. And then you go M option return. Did I do 16? Hang on. I'm out of sequence here. I'm going to go highlight M option down here. Drag to the left, 16, enter, and then I don't know what, 8x. Do 8 more times. Yeah, not enough. I should have had 9. So we're going to do M plus 16. Now here's the best part of these plugins. Yes, they cost money, but they're worth it because if you want to do things efficiently, you don't have to be the guy that invents it all. You just be the guy that gets paid to do what you're good at, and you hire somebody like Nathaniel to make this killer software. And I mean, so I used to think SketchUp was for babies because I saw all these primary colors, and I came from an AutoCAD background, and I was like, okay, this is just stupid. What do I want to do right now? I want to do flip plus. So there's a flip right here. So I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to hit option. And so now it's going to, see that little symbol? Now it's going to leave the original and bring a copy, and I'm just going to bring this over here. Whoa, I don't want to do that. I want to go right here and let go right there, because what that just did is it moved all those over to that side, made copies. So this is what a gable truss looks like. And anyways, yeah, Nathaniel just makes SketchUp so amazing that when I realized I could draw each thing, like each one of these is exactly 1.5 inches by 3.5. It felt like AutoCAD, but it's in 3D. So the only thing that disappoints me about SketchUp is I wish there was a really cool way to annotate in the actual 3D, or if their layout would work as good as Chief Architect, because I would like to have schedules with different symbols that I could just, in the actual SketchUp model, have floating numbers. Might get busy, I don't know, but everything in here you can draw exactly the way it would be. And in that way, I could measure all of these right here. If I had to make this, where are we at here? Dimension D. Dimension. So that's a 4 foot. Dimension D. 3 foot 6 and 5/8. I gotta figure out why the dimensions are so big. Tools. Is it text? No, it's not. It's window, and it's model info. That's what it is. Dimensions, and then I go to text. Fonts. So it's 4.5. So let's not do 4.5. Let's do 1/2 inch scale, 2.25. Boom. Let's do that. And let's see if that's a little more readable. We'll get rid of these guys. And I'll go D. Oh, yeah. Look at that. So what's nice is, let's say I wanted to know how long this is. If I'm using Chief Architect, they don't dimension the way that I would want it if I was stick framing a roof. They do a lot of good, but oh, I broke that. That's wrong. I want you to stay on the angle, please. Yeah, so in my haste, I've messed this up. Because now it's just going, oh, look at that. I got it. That's what I wanted. So there's some sweet spot where you can get it to go parallel. As you can hear, I'm still learning. But I wanted to explain lay-on framing, what it looks like, how you cut it. A lot of times I grab, like, this piece would come off the scrap of this piece. This piece would come off the scrap of this piece. You know, you'll work that out when you're cutting so that you don't have a lot of waste. And the most important part is getting this ridge. If you'll notice, since the ridge is flat on top and I didn't bevel cut it, you could bevel cut it if you want. You want to rip this down the middle and 18.43 degrees. Otherwise, you just want the edges to be flush, because that's where the plywood's going to plane to. Is you don't want this up here where it's going to cause a bump. The most important part, though, is getting that set and putting a level on it and getting it the right length. And so on this, for me, I would probably get a nice straight 2x4, and I would have somebody hold it on top of these peaks all the way along and it would be sitting on the roof, and we would start sliding it back till the level read correct. And I would make a mark on the roof. And I would put these lower ones on first and plane across. And once I know where that point is, you'll see that my ridge does not go out to here. It actually, again, the edges are here at the edge. If you wanted to be like world class, and if you had the budget to take the time, yeah, run your saw down here. It's 18.43 along. You drive it along the fat edge here, and I would use a blade on the right because I'm more comfortable with that than the blade on the left. And like everybody here in this state, it's got to be a Mag 77, or you're a loser. No, I'm just kidding. So I wanted that explained. So there's that. And lacing, I made them orange. and they'll be whatever the engineer documentation says. And here's your cutbacks for your continuous ridge. Oh, and that was the other thing. When you raise this end gable wall, a lot of times what we would do is we would take a 2x4 and just tack it to the wall through the sheathing into a stud or whatever. And, or if we didn't have the wall sheeted, it would be just on framing, and just run it straight up into the air. And since this isn't that big of a deal, you could just run one or two so that this first truss not only gets nailed, but it also can't fall off the house, and it'll become your main first thing. And what we always like to do on this first truss, just because, is give it something to hold on to. So what is this? Let's go 28 feet, comma 5.5. I'm looking down here in the bottom. That's how I knew those numbers would work. I'm just saying. Why is it? This mouse is acting kind of weird. Yeah, here we go. 1.5. So a lot of times what we would do before we set trusses is you get this wall straight. There's no studs in here just because I just didn't put them in. But you would brace this wall really straight into the house so that it's flawless. And then you come over the thickness of the truss, which is typically 1.5 inches, and you pop a line on the top of this plate right here all the way down. And then you would take like a 2x6 and follow that 1.5 inch line so that it causes the 2x6 to stick over. So it acts as a sheetrock nailer, which we used to call deadwood. And it also gives you the ability to, when you set that first truss, you can toenail down and then shoot straight in, and toenail down and shoot straight in, and toenail down and shoot straight in. And boom, this thing gets solid. Then you put a level on it. And if you have 2x bracing it, you just want to get this first one nice and level and solid. And then this next truss, as you're bringing it over, nail this block on. Measure your difference. It should be, what, 22.5. I always made mine 22 and 7/16 because you got these metal plates and stuff. And if you made them exactly 22.5, you get that creep to where about here, this truss is leaning away because all these have added a little bit of extra. So 22 and 7/16, unless your plates aren't super pressed, and then you might want to go 22 and 3/8, and you'll figure it out. You throw a level on about every third one to make sure they're still running plumb. And you would attach that block to this truss and then stand this truss up, and so it's got this block hanging off of it. And then you're able to step over to this truss and get your block lined up and shoot through. And so you're attaching the tops, and the bottoms are being nailed by the guys out here. And then they're going to start throwing, like here. I'll tell you what, this will probably also, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to just assume that you're going to have some kind of up high and down low lacing. Oh, and I wonder if I just push that into the, yeah, see, so that's not correct. Always pay attention to what you're doing. Come on, go down. There you go. Yeah, you just, wherever they tell you, if they tell you it goes there, jam it up tight, already have it laid out, and shoot it in. Attic accesses in these things are, really easy to do. You go to the highest center part, like if you had a lace 2x4, lacing 2x4, whatever. I don't know why we called it that, but you would put in some blocks. You know what? I'm going to be spending too much time here and taking up everybody's time. I don't want to mess with you too much. But like here, I'll make this the last thing. So I'm looking down, 1.5, comma, enter, P. And what is the deal? This mouse, I've got a corded mouse, and it's starting to act kind of weird. 1, 2, 3, G. I changed component G to group G. And then I made circle the letter I so that I could use the letter C for component. So let's just do this. So here's how some people do this. They'll put in 2 blocks because, I guess people want to be stronger, and you'll put hangers on them. And then if you're going to fill, let's say this is all insulated, and you needed 16 inches of foam, then you would take, what do I want to do, rectangle? Plywood, and usually it's like subfloor plywood or something, so it's 3/4. It's whatever we had left. Nobody ordered special plywood for this. And then from here you'd come up like 16 inches. 1, 2, 3, group. And these are always 22 by 30, I think. There's a code for this. I should know it. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use the flip command. T here. Half of 30 is 15. And then I'm going to go shift and hit flip plus. Grab the red, bring it over here. Boom, done. Okay. And then all you got to do is, these braces are going to be in the way. Hopefully, this isn't how your webs are set up. But this is how you would do it. Because then you would run plywood this way and plywood this way. But it would be along the bottom cord so that you maintain 22.5 inch opening. Because by code, I think the code is, if I just close my eyes and think about it, it's always like 30 by 22. That's what I remember as minimum. And the reason why they put the plywood is so that they could fill all this with foam. Like that's 16 inches, so you could have 16 inches of blow-in. And it wouldn't fall down into your hole. So there's that. And then everybody, to put a little lid in here, they would do like door trim and stick it in about a, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, whatever, all the way around. So it's a nice looking trimmed rectangle. And then they would cut sheetrock to fit exactly inside there. And so when it was all said and done, it looked like smooth sheetrock all the way across, no big deal, with this piece of rectangular looking trim. And that trim is in the hole just enough to catch that other sheetrock, so you can just lift that whole thing up. Some people will do a piece of wood painted, and then they will put like rigid foam on the backside just so that this isn't a cold spot. But this is a garage on this end, so there ain't no cold spot. It's just a garage. Oh, it's been long. So there you go, 40 minutes. I'm actually going to go to bed now. So this has been therapeutic. Man, I appreciate all of you out there. I am constantly impressed by people doing things, like being motivated, being creative, working. I love that kind of stuff. And so I will be subscribing and thumbs upping as many videos as impress me. And there are many of you out there. So thank you for the time and effort that you put into these things.